Hey, welcome to another Dead Game News. What the hell? Only one news item. Again. Unless some major news comes up as I finish editing the video. Again. Yeah, I guess I gave it away last time. Stadia is dying and will be dead early next year. Yeah, I have some thoughts on this one. Plus, we have another mystery in this episode. You guys solved the last mystery. Pretty quickly, too. This one might be trickier. Anyway, I saw a lot of comments on this news, and they mostly seem to fall into two categories. The first was just berating Stadia, saying it's crappy, glad it's dying, and so on. A lot of them didn't give a reason why, but the ones that did seemed to focus on the poor quality of service. The other category were people who were sad about this and felt that Google just wasn't handling this properly. But I don't think I saw any comments on how Stadia is the devil and is an existential threat to gaming, so I guess that's why I'm here. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm glad there was so much hate for it, but I feel like we should turn this into righteous hate, rather than have it be so disorganized. And for the people not on board, it may be futile, but let's at least try to explain to them how they were being led to the gaming slaughterhouse. I'm sure I've said this before, but let's make sure this is on the record. It's very simple. Game streaming services are just another option for playing a game. Not one I'm really interested in personally because of the latency, you can't customize the game much or mod it, and I don't like never-ending fees. But hey, if people want it, sure, there's no problem. But see, game streaming services and exclusive games are the harbinger of doom. Now, guess which one Stadia was? See, before anyone starts defending Stadia or a streaming service, think, which one are you really defending? Once the exclusive games get involved, then it's just the end. There's no hope for redemption. Because now they've taken hostages. You know how if somebody is kidnapped, it's a good sign if the kidnappers are concealing their identity from the victim? That's because they probably intend to return the victim alive for a ransom. So they don't want the person to be able to identify anything about them to the police later. Well, Stadia wasn't wearing a mask, the victims weren't blindfolded, they were using their real names out in the open. This was never going to end well. That's because game companies have proven time and time again they are horrendous stewards of media, particularly their own games. The last episode was literally a company suing people for saving their game. They've proven they can't be trusted with that power. They're reckless. If you were on a parole board, you would deny them parole as soon as you saw their rap sheet.
What would you like to do to the whole world?
Burn it all.
But the second reason is they're trying to normalize this. Streaming as the only way to play a game means death for games. Death, death, death. So even one exclusive game on streaming is like a virus infecting one cell. It's just one cell. You won't even notice it's gone. What's the problem? Yeah, the problem is 10 years later, you have dozens of titles that are streaming exclusive. Then 10 years after that, if I'm being generous, half of them are dead. That is not a good thing. Oh, and for those curious, these are the games Stadia has on death row. I actually give these a 50-50 chance of surviving somewhere, because a lot of Stadia exclusives were actually found out later to just be timed exclusives. And maybe that's the case for these also. If Google retained full rights though, then forget it, these are done. Yeah, don't get me wrong, I'm not happy they're at risk of dying, but if it's necessary for Stadia to die, then I still see that as the net positive. God forbid, if Stadia had been successful, they would just take more hostages in the future. Then, instead of 5 games dying, it would be 50, or 500 if it went on long enough. Now some might be saying, come on, Ross, can't you just enjoy the game while it's around and not be obsessed when it's not? Well, I might if it wasn't so preventable. It is so preventable. It's so preventable, it's insulting. And that just makes it worse psychologically. On Reddit, there's a section called Kill the Cameraman, where something interesting is happening, except the cameraman just couldn't handle pointing the camera at the event. It's kind of like that. Except at least the cameraman has the excuse of getting caught up in the excitement and didn't just point the camera at the ground for years and plan it that way from the beginning. Uh-oh, I'm getting bitter again. Alright, on to the mystery portion of the episode. Believe it or not, Google actually did something positive in this. They are refunding all hardware and software fees. Or at least that's what's being reported. That is incredible. I've only seen full refunds on dead games before if they never left beta, or if they were out for just weeks before they shut down. Once you get to a year, forget it. So that's the mystery. Why are they doing this? No, it's not them trying to do the right thing. Whoever said that, go stand in the corner and think about what you just said. You don't get to be a $1.4 trillion company by doing the right thing. And no, it's not for good PR. They're too big to need good PR. They're Google. You think they were worried about PR when they implemented Google Plus? Or disabled the dislike button on YouTube? Or recently, them experimenting with 5 to 10 unskippable video ads before a YouTube video starts? No. Someone in their legal department looked at their plans and they saw a problem if they didn't refund people. That's the only explanation. Maybe because they were selling physical units, those still have some established consumer laws involved with them? Kind of like how almost anything that's sold and are not video games do? It might have even been a state law and not a federal one. So if you want to be a detective, pretend you're someone who wants to sue Google. What would your angle be if they didn't offer refunds for canceling Stadia? Someone made a calculation that the legal liability would have been higher than all the lost profits on Stadia. It had to have been big. Okay, moving on down, I'm not even going to spend time on how Stadia's PR said they are not shutting down way back in 2 months ago. Or how the vice president of Google praised the development teams on their progress a week before laying them off. Or how they didn't even tell current developers this shutdown was happening. That's because stuff like this is every company. This is every publicly traded company. They all do this. I mean, it's worth documenting, yeah. But our economy is a throne of lies. You would need somebody better than me to cover that. I wouldn't even know where to start. Nor am I going to cover their missteps as a business. Though I have to admit, this was an impressive burn if you do care about that sort of thing. I'm just glad they died. Or will die. Honestly, they had me kind of worried because I won't lie, their commercial for Stadia was not bad. They were really trying to thread that line of trying to seem cool and not rob you while burying the full ramifications of what they're doing.
Unthink the things you think are things.
Also, as an aside, I've talked before how I really like being able to run normal games in a 3D theater stereoscopic mode in VR. It's hard to explain, but it's kind of like this part of their commercial. It really is kind of like that. So selling a better experience and pretending that's what you are is smart marketing, I guess. What I think is less smart is trying to pull that same trick with technical people and claim your service has negative latency. Yeah, I remember this, Gem. We think in a year or two we'll have games that are running faster and feel more responsive in the cloud than they do locally. Beautiful quote. Now, this actually wasn't complete delusion. I'm not going to get into the specifics, but it has to do with running 2 copies of the game, with one at a higher frame rate, than delivering those frames instead. But even then, you still have internet lag, so it's just a joke. The bottom line is, this is never going to be true if you're running a game at a high frame rate already. I mean, unless it involves sabotage. Hey, I guess it was true for the exclusive games they're destroying. The latency on these games is indeed lower than Infinity. Or it is until January. But let's end this on the real treasure, which was a 2019 Ask Me Anything thread on Reddit with then Stadia product director Andrei Durinichev. And someone asked him the question. If the Stadia service is discontinued, what will happen with game purchases? Are there any end-of-life guarantees? And history deserves to have his answer immortalized. We get this a lot. I hear you. Moving to the cloud is scary. I felt the same way when music was transitioning from files to streaming. I still have all my old CDs in the garage. Although it's hard to find a CD player these days. Smiley face. Oh. Why is it scary, Andre? Why is moving to the cloud scary? Is it because it's new technology? It's just new, so people are scared of it? It's just a completely irrational fear that something about it isn't safe? But wait, it's not even that new, is it? OnLive launched game streaming in 2010. That was years ago. Why are people still so scared? That is so weird. The same happened to movies and photos and My Docs and other files. And it's great! Games are no different. Eventually, all of our games will be safely in the cloud too, and we'll feel great about it. Aww! Isn't that nice? The games are so safe and snugly in the cloud. Games are just files. They're just like any other file. No one ever tries to split your game in two so you can never run it without their authorization, which they take away from you. Files! Nothing in life is certain, but we're committed to making Stadia a success. The games you buy on Stadia are yours to play. From day one, we'll support takeout, so that you can download your game metadata, including saves if you want to. Oh, isn't that great? You can download your game's metadata. What does that even mean? That if you're playing an action game, you can download an ID tag that says action on it? Or stats about how many hours you played the game? And saved games. Amazing. What more could you want for your money? And nothing in life is certain. God, I've had more than a few people throw that line at me. You know what? That's true. But there's also this thing called probability. And you can actually make decisions around probability as though they're certain. And they'll turn out correct the majority of the time if the odds are high. So it almost seems crazy to me to not assume something that's very likely to occur will occur. Especially if the consequences are really bad if you don't. Of course, it's okay to doubt my words. There's nothing I can say now to make you believe if you don't. Well, he just kind of cut to the chase on that one, didn't he? Yeah, it's okay to doubt his words. And since they're shutting down, now we know it was not okay to believe him. I generally don't believe in things if there's a lot of evidence suggesting they're false. And doubly so when it's coming from someone who straight up lied a few sentences back. Plus, it's a values conflict. I'm on the side of not wanting games destroyed. He is not. So what can we really say to each other if we don't even have that foundation? Communication isn't the problem here, it's simply intent. Okay, maybe I'm being unfair. If we're being real, he probably doesn't actually want games destroyed. He's just very willing to enable people who will destroy them and defend them. That's doublethink. Starts to get weird. Anyway, I hope everyone watching this remembers this response when you think of streaming games, Google, tech companies with big ideas that seem to have obvious problems. There were a mix of replies, though many of them got deleted. Well, just to give the remaining ones justice, I'm screen capping the better ones here just to make sure they're nice and safe. I mean, after all, you can download this video with third-party software, or take screenshots, or really it's possible to back up pretty much any kind of digital media. Except one. Isn't there one that has major problems with you backing it up? It's on the tip of my tongue. Well, that about wraps things up. I'm glad Stadia will be dead soon. That will hopefully create a chilling effect in the industry, so no one else attempts streaming exclusives. At least for a while. It's like some sort of curse that keeps coming back. Google! I have no idea if this would be profitable or not, but if you want to do something constructive with your time instead of this, how about doing 3D laser scans of all those areas you've been doing Street View on? Like some racing games do of real-world tracks? Then we can really have some detail on seeing our world, since I think we still have room for improvement. I would love that. I mean, that would be an ungodly amount of data to process, but you could take it in baby steps. Stadia will be dead. I think they were the only ones running exclusives, so I think we can actually breathe easier on streaming games for now. But games requiring an online server with no end-of-life plan are still bigger than ever. Plus, I'm wary of Microsoft trying to court people by eating profits on their Game Pass, only to spring a trap later once they control enough market share. Just remember the original Xbox One plan for what their vision of gaming is. They particularly make me nervous since they intertwine functionality of the Windows Store with the OS itself. No other PC game store does that, or not like they do. I'm still fuzzy on the details, but I think you can't retain full control of your computer and use the Windows Store on it. I'm still investigating that one. So yeah, we can rest easier, but no, we can't at all really. Blah! Blah!